Hey everyone, welcome back to It's a Peer-to-Peer World Virtual Conference. We've made it. It's the last session of the last day, and we're saving the best for last. I'm going to go ahead and say that, Marie. What do you think?
I
So
agree.
you're going to have to come through on that now, and I'm sure you will. I have no
No
doubt
pressure
you'll deliver.
whatsoever.
No pressure, but I've seen some of the slides, and I think it's going to be a great session. So yeah, moving on to the next slide, just want to give a huge shout out again to all of our hosts and sponsors, and definitely appreciate everyone, especially in this case fundraising, because this is also their session, and I'm very interested in listening to it, so looking forward to it. Moving on to the next slide, just a housekeeping. Thanks. Everybody knows how Zoom works at this point. Feel free to ask questions as you think of them in the Q&A, or feel free to chat to everybody, including the panelists in the chat area. And then when the session is over, please take a moment to fill out the survey. Tell us what you thought of the session. Tell us what you thought of the conference overall, any other ideas you might have. And we're going to be doing a raffle, and our friends at Halo are going to be giving out some free swag for individuals that are drawn. So appreciate all that. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to Marie.
Thank you. And thank you for not making fun of our name to start with, which you usually do. Sorry, that's your thank you slide. So, hi everyone, my name's Marie. I'm from Fundraising. Today we're going to be talking about gamification and how it's changing from just being about badges. We've got some great examples, and our friends from Sick Kids are joining us to talk through Million Reasons Run, which was its first year this year. So let's get started. Okay, so this is a bit of a sneak peek about what we're doing today. We will be looking at sort of introductions, what gamification is, the gaming of giving, personalizations, and reward and recognition. So a little bit about me. You might be able to tell that I'm Australian. I'm actually based in the US. Part of the US team. I've been here with fundraising for about 2.5 years, leading the team here. But prior to that, I've been in the fundraising industry for about almost 14 years now, specializing in peer-to-peer events. I think, like most of us, I wasn't a little girl that thought that she would grow up and go into fundraising, but I absolutely love it. So the events that I've worked on, September was my first event that we built out. We took that international, and it's now in 8 countries around the world. September was with Cerebral Palsy Alliance. From there, I moved to the States to work with Movember, building out a health and wellness event designed to engage females, as they didn't have really anything tangible to do during the Movember. I can grow a mean moustache, but not socially accepted. So that's why we kind of created Move. From there, I became the product manager of the products within, the fundraising products at Movember. And it was a great time. Grew to appreciate moustaches. Next, I went to consult for Autism Spectrum Australia. And whilst I was there, they were looking for a new fundraising product. And I kind of looked around. I'd used most of the ones that were available and came across Fundraising. It was actually recommended to us by Luke Edwards. So I was a client of Fundraisings before I actually joined the team. I annoyed Courtney and said, let's bring this to America and North America. And he eventually gave in. So I moved back over to start this office. So we haven't really done any marketing here in the past. This would probably be sort of our debutante debut when it comes to presenting at conferences. So please be kind. If anyone's ever worked with me, they know that I love to talk and I'm a big fidgeter. I'm going to try and not do that during the presentation. But next, I'm going to talk a little bit about fundraising. So fundraising was created in 2016. Our founders were working in the digital marketing space for for-profits. And they started working with some nonprofits and quickly realized that the same tools and resources weren't available to nonprofits. Tools being ways of integrating with other systems, easy sites to use, ways to communicate with your participants. And so they decided to build fundraising, and fundraising has basically evolved from there with feedback from our clients. So as we get requests in, we usually find that there's a few charities that are interested in those tools. So we've kind of built it with them in mind. Speaking back to us not doing much marketing, we haven't really done that around the world either. Australia grew just from word of mouth, which is a really nice way, I think, of introducing new platforms and having it from fellow charities, people in the industry actually recommending it. So it's a white label fundraising system. You can do so many different fundraising activities. We're known for our peer-to-peer events, but you can do offline events, your community fundraising, any of your appeals, raffles, kind of the endless options within, or endless tools within it. You've also got quite a lot of integration. So we integrate with email marketing systems, Google Analytics, Salesforce, all of those kind of ones to help promote your event and bring it to the next level. We've got offices now in North America, Australia, New Zealand, London, and Croatia. So we have 24-hour support during weekdays. There's always someone online to be able to help out if you ever need it. At the moment, we're raising annually around 270 million, which is really exciting. Courtney is joining us later. He might already be on here, but I told him he wasn't allowed to watch and he had to join us later. So next, I would like to pass over to our special guests. First of all, we have Angela. Angela, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I am the manager of special events at St. Kitts Foundation. And I focus on peer-to-peer fundraising strategy for our signature events. I do believe that there's nothing like a great in-person event, I have to say I've really enjoyed the challenge of creating meaningful experiences over the last 18 months, within the virtual space. And like many of you have had to pivot over the last year and a half with COVID. So, I feel like with peer-to-peer fundraising, things have gone a little bit stale over the past 10 years or so. And it's been really refreshing to dive into technology and embrace the reimagining process. And that's something we've had the great opportunity to do with fundraising. So I'm excited to chat more about that with you guys. I'll pass over to Mark.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark. I joined St. Kitts Foundation in February of 2020. So I had about a month in the office with quote unquote normal work, and then, dove right into reimagining all of our existing events, as well as supporting the creation of this brand new one, which we'll be talking to you about today. And my role within the event was, primarily project management, what I'll call sort of digital logistics, and working really closely with our creative partners, our digital marketing partners, and of course our favorite Marie and the whole fundraising team, which helped us get this event from an idea into reality in about 5 months.
Mark kept us on track. He was very good at that. So would you mind talking through sort of an overview of what Million Reasons Run was, and where the idea came from, and sort of your strategy behind what you were hoping to achieve?
Sure. So, just to provide a little bit of background, Around 5 years ago, Sick Kids Foundation was approached by a fundraiser called Great Cycle Challenge. I don't know if many of you have heard about it, but it was first created in Australia and then brought over to the US and then eventually Canada. So Great Cycle Challenge, or as we call it, GCC, is a digital peer-to-peer cycling event that raises funds for children's cancer research. So in our first year with GCC, it became a massive hit nationwide. We had over 10,000 riders raising $1.8 million in peer-to-peer fundraising, which is absolutely incredible. And fast forward to 2020, the program has grown exponentially. The Peer-to-Peer Professional Forum released the top 30 Canadian campaigns last year and announced that GCC Canada had more than doubled its revenue from 4.5 million in 2019 to nearly 9.5 in 2020, making it North America's fastest growing program and ranked number 3 on the list. So, we knew that we had a very powerful digital program, and we wanted to, replicate the success within another market. So based on the incredible success of Great Cycle Challenge, we wanted to create a new peer-to-peer virtual events, and we weren't really sure what we were going to do. Back in 2019, we did some extensive market research, and what we had landed on was targeting runners across Canada in support of children's health research. So as Marie mentioned, we landed on calling it the Million Reasons Run. What's really unique about this event is, Sick Kids, ran this event, but it was not a Sick Kids event exclusively. We decided because it was national in nature, we wanted to collaborate with the 12 other children's hospitals across Canada and allocate the funds from the event to the children's hospital closest to the event donors. So we launched this event in May 2021 with goals of 10,000 participants and 1.5 million in peer-to-peer revenue. Launching a new digital event during global pandemic and during Zoom fatigue for sure. We were not really sure how we would measure up to these goals, but we were able to recruit 8,000 participants and exceed our fundraising with 1.9 million raised in peer-to-peer fundraising. And this was due to many different factors, including a purely digital marketing spend to promote the events. We promoted on just about every social channel that you could think of. It did take a bit of time for us to figure out what our key messaging would be to successfully recruit these participants, but we worked very closely with a talented digital advertiser who ruthlessly optimized our ads, tweaked our messaging, and funneled our marketing dollars into the highest performing ads to really drive down our cost per acquisition. So being a virtual event, we knew that we wanted to get the digital strategy right, and we wanted participants to be as engaged as possible, which is always a challenge doing this from home. So what we did was we sought out our best tools and resources to make this happen. We really started from scratch and worked with all new vendors. And with brand new technology. We hired a great digital advertising agency, a really talented creative agency to help us come up with our look and feel and branding. And then we signed on with a new marketing email vendor, and we also signed on with a new fundraising platform, which is fundraising. So everything was brand new to us this year, but we really wanted to find the best tools out there. For those of us who work in P2P, we have a lot of pain points in terms of reporting and the user experience, and fundraising's been really, really great to work with. With Marie, I feel like the sky has really been the limit. Anything that we could dream up, she's been able to make happen. And what's also really great about working with fundraising and working with Marie is that, she has worked with a ton of other charities. So, she's been really great at helping us brainstorm different ways to engage with donors and gamification. So super excited to talk about that today. So I'll pass it over to you, Marie.
Thank you. And thank you for all the kind words. I will pay you later for those. So we're going to move on and just talk briefly about what gamification is. I think we all know what it actually is, but just as a recap, when we say gamification, people often immediately associate that with badges, points and levels. And while those are mechanics of gamification, you certainly leverage inside of all your events to create that experience. That's more of a simplistic explanation for what it actually is. So we're going to dive into other ways of engaging, motivating your participants, and also tools that you can use that are gamification techniques that can benefit your own organization. So I'm pushing the wrong button. So if we have a look at what the key elements are of gamification, there's the mechanics section, which is basically the components of the game. So an example of that might be the rules, the actions, the points, the leaderboards. They're the mechanics. That's how we get people to engage. The dynamics are how the individual or the participant interacts with those mechanics. So are they trying to achieve something? Are they trying to have personalization or self-expression? And then we've got the aesthetics. And this is the emotion that we want to basically evoke within those participants to get them to feel certain ways. So that might be something of like sense of community, confidence, that achievement that you've contributed as well. So if we take an example and look at rewards or badges, so the badge itself would be the mechanism. The dynamic is the reward and receiving the reward, and the aesthetic would be to make the participant feel good, feel like they've achieved something, and feel kind of proud of themselves. So we're going to get started and have a look at the more interesting stuff. So if we jump over and start talking about motivations. So I'm going to get Sick Kids again to jump in here and talk about how they use motivation to get their participants to interact with them. So using the initiative items, using items to motivate and reward your participants isn't anything new in peer-to-peer, but rather more informing participants of what you have on offer, and a way to approach to maximize their impact with those items. Can you tell us a little bit about how you used incentive items and the strategy behind them?
Yeah, for sure. So we wanted the incentives to be a main driver for fundraising for our participants. So when we decided on our reward items, we wanted them to be displayed pretty much everywhere so that everyone would know what the swag was and know what to strive for. So this included promoting it on our homepage of the website, as well as on the fundraising resources page. As you can see here, as part of the registration flow, we added in the suggested fundraising goals that aligned with our fundraising rewards specifically, along with images of the rewards. So we provided 3 options. We have $500 to earn running t-shirts, $1,500 to earn a performance hoodie, and then we also had a default option of $250, which could be changed by the participants. This made goal setting less cumbersome for the participants and a little bit more enticing to strive for a higher fundraising goal because they had that visual right there of what they could achieve. And just to give you a little perspective, 36% selected the t-shirt goal, 10% selected the hoodie goal, and 24% selected the default $250 goal. So this showed us that 70% of participants through the registration flow bought into our fundraising goal setting strategy. And the average fundraise amongst our active fundraisers was $584, which allowed them to earn the t-shirt reward. We also included the fundraising rewards as items to unlock on the participant dashboard. So on the back end of the participant experience, they were able to see what the rewards were and it had a nice little lock symbol, and you want to be able to unlock that. So it added a little bit of an element of challenge and achievement, earning it just a little bit more valuable. So once the participant fundraised their reward level, the image of the reward would unlock and a pop-up appeared. And so so that they could redeem their reward right away. So this really served two purposes. One, it gave instant gratification to the participant so that they could redeem their reward as soon as they earned it. And it also allowed our team to collect the information we needed, such as their address and their sizing, so that we could order with more accuracy and reduce additional spend on reorders and shipping. Once the reward was redeemed by the participant, it was added to a daily report on the back end of fundraising, which was sent to our supplier to fulfill the order request. So a super smooth process. We know that rewards are highly motivating to our participants. We conducted a post-event survey, and fundraising rewards were the second most motivating fundraising promotion that we offered our participants just after match day, which was a one-day matching of gifts up to $250,000. We were nicely able to tie in our fundraising rewards with the match day. So any donation that a participant received on match day, it was applied to their fundraising page, and they could also use it to go towards their fundraising reward level.
Fantastic. And you often hear that donors can be unsure about how much to donate, what's the appropriate amount. And we see that they're guided by other gifts that other people have made along the way. You also implemented, it is a ridiculously simple tactic to motivate donors to give a higher average amount with amazing results. Do you want to share a little bit about what you actually did and how it worked out?
Yeah, sure. So, we know in online giving best practices that offering a couple suggested donation amounts really help guide the donor on just knowing how much they should give. So we set our amounts at $35, $70, $125, and $250, highlighting and pre-selecting the $125 level. We didn't want to turn off donors by, suggesting an amount that was too much, but we also wanted to guide them in giving a little bit more. So by pre-selecting the $125 button, it really paid off. As you can see, $125 was by far our top donation choice of donors. And the second most popular amount was $35. So it was good to have a lower amount available as well to select. And what's not here is our most popular self-selected donation, which was $50. But that amount was still less than the number of 125 donations. So it just really goes to show that it's really effective to have these suggested giving levels. As well, our average amount donated overall was $68.58, so just slightly under the $70 pre-selected amount. Being able to monitor the top dollar handles on the fundraising platform really helped us to see the effectiveness of the pre-selected donations, and know that highlighting the $125 button was incredibly valuable in driving our donations up to a higher level of giving. So had we put these amounts in here and they were not performing effectively, we could have had the opportunity to adjust these numbers accordingly, just knowing how often people were using these buttons.
Fantastic. Sorry, I'll just put myself back. So moving on, we're going to, actually, I think in the interest of time, I'm going to skip through to all of the SIT kits items, just so we can make sure that we get those in. And I'll just have to do another one of these to explain the other things to you. So let's keep going through the presentation. Okay. Here we go, we're game and giving. Sorry, guys. So if we jump to challenges, so a key gamification technique is creating a challenge for participants. How did you use this technique within Million Reasons Run?
Well, we really wanted to meet people where they were in all aspects of this event. So, if you were mainly participating because you wanted a fitness challenge, then we gave you the option right in registration to select sort of your fitness level with some guidance for us if you weren't sure. So as you can see here, right in the registration, when they were asked what their run goal was, we gave them a few different options. I run a few times a week, and that would be considered casual, or running, life. I'm going to bed with my sneakers on, and I'm going to be going for those advanced type of goals. And then based on that selection, they would show up on the corresponding kilometer leaderboard. And that way you didn't have someone like me, who's not a runner at all, up competing against someone like Melindy Elmore, who's an Olympic athlete and one of our running ambassadors, and just sort of levels the playing field that way. We also split the leaderboards into individuals, teams, and corporate types. So there were all these sort of mini challenges going on within the larger challenge and competition framework. And if you were, crushing your kilometer goals in the casual category and you decided you wanted to up your game, then we prompted you with a pop-up that gave you the option to sort of level up and advance to that intermediate leaderboard or even up to the advanced leaderboard if you wanted. And if you were happy with your original selection, then you could just sit there the whole event, and that is totally fine too. All about just giving people a number of different choices and trying to create an environment where everyone has somewhat of a fair shot at reaching the top of the leaderboard and ultimately getting those bragging rights.
Thanks, Mark. So moving on to engagement, let's talk about how you look to educate people along the way. So the right user strategy with engagement can solve key issues. It can increase your interaction with those users and build a deeper connection. What engagement strategies did you implement, and what was the benefit of these?
Yeah, a couple different ones. We spent a lot of time mapping out the participant journey and the donor journey, just thinking about how we can engage people at every step, make it intuitive, and ultimately drive the sort of kinds of behaviors that we wanted to see from people. This being a brand new event, we knew that we needed to do some education, make everything easy to understand, clearly laid out. So one of the fundraising features that we took advantage of early on was the dashboard tour, which you can see playing through here. Basically based on the idea of, if you open up any app these days, you'll get that sort of navigation tour where it shows you how to get through the app and what you can actually do inside of the app, what the features are, etc. We really wanted to bring that sort of guided experience to our website as well, so that people knew exactly where to find what they wanted to find, and even sort of discover things that they wouldn't have necessarily looked for. They were kind of nudged towards those things. It's a bit of a fine balance, trying to give participants enough resources and ways to engage without just like overwhelming them and causing confusion. I think we've all seen event pages where there's just, it's packed with information, it's packed with resources. There's tons of different navigation pages, which could all contain great info and great stuff. But then you'll have, someone calling and saying, hey, I have a check and I want to make an offline donation. I can't find where to do that on the website. And, of course, that's not a situation you want to be in. So we really focused on making it just a super clean user experience that engaged people where we wanted to and just kind of cut the fluff everywhere else.
Thanks. So let's click to the next one. Why are you not working? Sorry, guys.
I don't know if the checklist made it into the presentation, but one of the other things we added, I don't know if I'll show in the video here, but that's okay. It was a checklist with a completion percentage on their dashboard. So as you got in there, it had a number of different steps, add your profile picture, send out your first email, add your first blog post, those sort of things. And then it has a sort of completion percentage with a circle around it, if you can picture that. And that just sort of played to people's natural instinct. They want to hit that 100%. They want to see that completion go up. It's almost like closing your rings on an Apple Watch. It's just sort of a natural inclination to want to get there. And of course, the steps that we chose within that checklist, we know are historically linked to increased fundraising activity. So the participant on their end, they've been in the event for 5 minutes. They've maybe done a few clicks, nothing crazy, and they've already, gotten that sense of accomplishment and hit 100% on something. And then on our end, we've also just primed them to be a successful fundraiser. So really a win-win feature there.
And I'll get you to jump onto the next one. We've already showing it.
Yeah.
So one of the very first things you see when you land on someone's page, so do you want to talk through the personalization aspect? So when you land on someone's page, you can see the activity they're doing, but you don't always connect. So what did you implement to make that happen?
Yeah, a couple things here. So as you can see right under the name, they've got their reason for running. And that could be a generic selection here, like I'm running to support life-saving research. And that was, from a few pre-selected drop-downs in the registration, or they had the option of inserting their own like personalized message. It could be as personal or as generic as they wanted, but they could sort of customize that as they wish. And in that way, every time a participant logs in, they're reminded of why they're doing this, why they're running, why they're fundraising every day of a month-long challenge. It's good to keep that top of mind. And, from an external person, if they're coming to someone's page to donate, they might not even know what the event's about or have any of the context, but right away they're seeing why that person is participating and why they're, being drawn in to donate, which is exactly what we want. And it also sort of gives us insight on the back end. When we look at the aggregate data, we start to understand, X amount of people are choosing this reason or this type of reason over this reason. And that allows us to sort of start segmenting and start speaking to people that is in a more relevant way to them, I guess. And then the other example, sort of speaking to people, we did that in all the usual ways, of course, through email, through phone calls, through text, etc. But we also personalized the notification bar, which is that yellow bar you see that was appearing right at the top of every page on the website, and would dynamically adapt based on a number of different variables. So whether you were logged in or logged out, you got a different message. Depending on where you're at throughout the time of the event month, you got a different message, and even where you're at with your goals. So it really, narrows it down and starts getting really specific with those messages. So for example, you might see a message that's like, hey, Mark, you're only $60 away from earning a free hoodie. Why don't you make a self-donation and close that gap? Or, hey, Mark, match day is coming up tomorrow. Why don't you draft some emails and get those ready to send off first thing tomorrow morning? Those types of messages and that ability to dynamically adapt, it really allowed us to speak directly to our participants.
Thanks. Okay. So just because we've got a little bit of time, I'm going to talk through some other events and how they're using personalization to sort of bring it to life. So this event's called August. It's one of my favorite. It's quite cute. And when you do the registration process, it actually asks you what your dog's name is. So the idea behind the event is you are walking 30 minutes for 30 days with your dog. So your dog's name then appears in communications, it appears within your header on your fundraising page, and it really creates that kind of connection to the cause because you've got your dog and it's about guide dogs. It's an extension of the brand. As you can see, it's quite a fun-looking event and has that kind of cutesy, warm thing about it. It's also a reminder of the call to action when you see your dog's name, that you are meant to get out there every day and walk that puppy. It also, I feel like it creates that kind of you're in this together, that team aspect, that it's you and your dog. And I think then it creates that kind of accountability that you've got to keep this up for your dog. So if we click to the next one, another event, I'll just play this for you, that we're noticing the ways of the engagement is an event called Dance for Sick Kids. It's a Ronald McDonald House event. They are using the outcome or the impact of your donations to sort of explain more about what you are getting involved with. What you can see here in the panel is $160 equals one night for a family to stay in Ronald McDonald House with their sick child. And what they've done on the homepage, rather than just focusing on those targets or what you're trying to hit with your fundraising goal, they've actually converted it into how many nights that chunk of money has earned. So you can see here that 7,900 nights have been raised. So you can kind of feel that nice warm feeling about knowing that you have contributed to that. So it really shifts that focus to the impact. I think it also gives the donor a nice feeling when they're giving, but it creates that tangible connection that it takes the focus away from the donation amount and shows how they're actually helping. It connects back to the cause, having those dollar handles and showing that you are affecting that, and it evokes that emotion as well. This is quite a fun event as well, with all of the dancing. So next, we're going to talk about reward and recognition. So with this, I'm going to throw back to the Sick Kids team. With this, I've noticed that the end of an event, and I know that I'm definitely guilty of this, not much goes into planning it, or strategy goes into behind it, or how you're going to end it. I see that the priorities usually center around that acquisition phase and leading up to the event and then throughout the event. And basically what happens is you've built this connection throughout everything with all these great tools, but then kind of fizzles out at the end of the event. So a lot of us send thank you emails, but that's it. There's no consistency in that journey. You've done some really amazing work to engage and connect with your fundraisers throughout the event and sort of shifted your focus. Can you talk about how you made the end of your campaign consistent with the rest of the process and what you were aiming to do via this?
Yeah, for sure. So the end of the campaign and how you steward your participants and your donors is really crucial for retention for the following year. And I know with retention, it seems to be on the decline in peer-to-peer events. And we spend so much time and resources on acquisition when we really should be spending a little bit more strategy into retention. As we know, the people who stick around are our best fundraisers. So it's really important to invest in that relationship. With a virtual event like this, it's a little bit different than an in-person event because there's no meaningful post-event celebration or closing ceremonies to really wrap up that experience. And being an endurance event like this, that really played up gamification through the badges that we did. We had activity streaks, fundraising milestones, and so forth. We wanted to give participants a personalized summary of their accomplishments. So we created a end of campaign participant recap that was personalized and added to their thank you email. It highlighted their milestones, like the badges that they acquired, how much they fundraised, total kilometers run, their donors, as well as how much the collective events achieved in fundraising, and was a piece that was able to be shared on social media to brag to their friends and family. We wanted, we wanted participants to remember and celebrate all the hard work that they had put into the fundraising and running challenge throughout the month, and have a way to thank their donors for supporting them. So, a month-long challenge is quite long and can cause fundraising fatigue. It can fizzle out a little bit at the end, like you mentioned. So we wanted to give participants something that was really special and personalized, just to keep them really invigorated and excited to register for next year's events. Participants were really pleased with this piece of recognition, and so many of them let us know that they loved the challenge and they were excited to be back for 2022. So definitely mission accomplished with that, really personalized piece for each of our participants.
Thank you. So we're just going to talk now about the ABF Soldiers Charity, which is a charity that's based in the UK. The reason that we're talking about this is they kind of take all of the things that we've been talking about today and roll it up into those 3 R's. So we've got that recognition, you've got your rewards, and you're able to retain those participants because of that. So the way that they engage their participants first is that they're really authentic. A lot of the people that support the charity are ex-military or veterans. So they make sure all the messaging is rooted in that army feel. It really appeals to the core audience then. But the other thing that they do really well is the long-term goal. When we look at gamification, that short-term goal obviously is reaching your revenue or that you've budgeted for within the event, and that's kind of what you're driving to. But thinking about those long-term goals and how you can take all of that momentum and kind of move them through your different activities. So if we have a look, one of their events is Operation Betchley. So how this works is you're walking 50 miles and it's during the month of July. And during this time, every 5 miles that you walk, you get a code. And you have to crack 10 codes along the way. So you get that clue every time that you hit the 5 mile mark, and you're leading to that 10th clue to try and solve the puzzle. It uses Morse code, and as you can see that it's really in their branding. The other thing that they use is fundraising levels. So as you move throughout and raise your funds, and you can see here that you move through actual military levels as well. So they use those names again to call back to the cause. But they then take it a step further. The more that you do events with them, they keep track and they will show you what level that you reached throughout each event, but there's an overall level to reach. So not just within the event, but you want to become that kind of general level for the charity. So they keep track of every event and how much you've raised, your status within that, and that all equals up into your status as a participant or as a supporter. And so it kind of gives a really nice incentive for the participants to obviously come back and do the events that they have, but it gives that opportunity to move your participants into other events that they might not have known about. And often with our different events, I know that in the past I haven't wanted to sort of rob Peter to pay Paul. You want to kind of keep your loyal participants in that event and worry about causing more of that fatigue that Angela mentioned by trying to encourage them to get other events, whereas they've kind of, with Soldiers Charity, they've alleviated that problem by making this kind of master level. They have these really amazing videos throughout that congratulate you. So it's sort of your general coming on and saying, thank you very much, great work. Now you've got to reach your next level. So you've hit the 250 mark. Now you're going to be going for sergeant level, and you're going to be raising $500. So I'm just also, let's have a look at our time. I want to make sure that we have time for questions. So let's jump to our questions slide. Here we go. We've got Courtney, I am thinking, who's joined us. Courtney, are you there? I don't know if he can talk with the housekeeping stuff. So does anyone have any questions? Feel free to ask questions of myself or of the Sick Kids team. Everyone's silent. I promise we won't bite.
Not seeing any questions yet. That's
okay. What we can do is head back to some of the slides that we missed. So just skipping through these. So this is an event called MS Readathon. The reason this works really well is it's about engaging children. So you have a few different ways that you do that. You can engage via school, but it allows for parents to register for their child throughout the registration process, so you don't have to worry about the email address or the child managing those pages. When you sign up, you get to select an avatar, so that automatically gives you that connection to what you're doing and makes it seem fun and exciting. So you can see here, they also include a bunch of questions, again, similar to how Million Reasons run, asking you what your motivation is to get involved. Here you can see on the screen that there's the different avatars to choose from. The child can get involved and choose those. And as you go through the fundraising levels and raise more money, you actually get to unlock items to add to your avatar. So go to the next page.
And while you're doing that, there was a question that came in. How did you pick the marketing agency you used? I think that's for the Sick Kid folks.
Yeah, so I'll take a stab at this, Rick. You can add anything if you want to. I mean, we put out an RFP for a new creative agency. We knew our Sick Kids marketing team really was at capacity, not able to take on this event that was just for sick kids, but really for all 13 children's hospitals across Canada. So we did put out an RFP, and we reviewed some really great creative agencies, but the one that we ended up going with just had some really great experience in the peer-to-peer world and just really seemed to get our market. And they did a really fantastic job of kind of creating something from nothing. When we started this event, we really kind of got started around this time last year, and we knew that we wanted to do a running event. We knew that it was to impact children's hospitals, and what do we call this event? How do we, engage with people meaningfully? And I think they really hit the mark on that. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Mark.
No, not really. Just maybe the time constraint too. I think we were pretty upfront with all our partners and transparent. Certainly with fundraising and Marie saying like we are starting from literally scratch and we need to build this whole thing. And in fundraising's case, the website was sort of the main point of contact for the participant experience. So I think whether it was the marketing agency or fundraising or any of our partners, it was just being really transparent and upfront about the timelines and what our expectations were from the get-go.
And they were really great to work with from our point of view as well. I really think that design element brought the event to life and those different aspects. So one of the things, if you don't mind me mentioning, was the downloadable resources that you had that gave the participants the opportunity to share on social media and sort of promote your event, but also get more fundraising along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole look and feel of the event really, played to our advantage. It was something that was easy to share. People wanted to talk about it. People wanted to put it on their social. And that certainly helped us out in the end, I think. One of the other questions, I think, what was your biggest challenge or what was a surprise? And I think the thing that jumped into my head was right when we launched in the first, 2 or 3 weeks of being in market, we were, pumping ads, pumping everything, like everything was full throttle, and we were seeing really good website traffic. We knew people were, clicking through our ads, and we knew people were going to the registration flow, but we were seeing really low conversion. For some reason, people were dropping off that reg flow at some point and just not actually joining the event, which obviously sucks to see people interested and then losing them. But because fundraising had such rich sort of data analysis on their back end and at our fingertips without having to do a whole lot of manipulation, we were able to identify the exact sort of steps where most people were falling off that registration, and then do a change on the fly where we basically cut about half of our registration and just made it super streamlined, super fast. and overnight saw our conversion rate on the registration go from about 50% to 100%. Like anyone who was interested in clicking that registration button was actually getting through the event, and then we could talk to them later and, you know, add in sort of all the upsells that we originally had in there, like t-shirt sales and self-donations. Those are all, you know, nice to have and a good idea, I think, to in some situations, but if we don't get the people in the door, you can't talk to them. So that was a game changer to be able to recognize that and implement it on the fly.
Great. Oh, wait, there's a few questions here.
Yeah, next one was, what would you change or have you changed this year? Any additional, you know, hateful word pivots?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to have a lot of pivots. I mean, this was a really successful year. We raised, you know, almost $500,000 more than we anticipated, and our goals are even bigger for 2022 for sure. I think there was definitely opportunity to make some additional tweaks. Like Mark mentioned, we were sort of starting from scratch, and time was really not something on our side. So, you know, being able to implement a little bit more of a corporate challenge program this year, making a change to our leaderboards. You know, we did get some feedback that, you know, people didn't feel like maybe they belonged in an expert level running leaderboard. So, you know, we've decided to streamline that into just one leaderboard for everybody, and then to keep your ranking at the top of that, so you know exactly where you place amongst all of the participants, not just within, you know, sort of one category. You know, just small things like that. But I mean, I think people were really excited. You know, we saw that fundraising was very strong in this event. We weren't really sure, you know, how much people would fundraise, would they hit our fundraising reward levels? And, you know, we see that there's an opportunity to really engage even further than our hoodie level, which was $1,500. So, you know, we're looking at what can we incentivize that's a little bit more premium, a little bit more sexy, really to push even higher levels of fundraising for next year.
Right.
Any other questions from anybody?
So you've got one here. There's how did you drive match giving, and how did that work out for you? And did you get a corporate involved?
You want me to take that one, Mark? I can take that one. Yeah, so what's really cool about the fundraising platform is that we're able to take a matched gift and apply the donations to people's pages individually. You know, I've worked on other events in the past where, you know, the matched gift has sort of gone to the event itself, and, you know, the motivation is really around the donation and the donors as opposed to incentivizing the participants. And like I mentioned, we use the match to incentivize participants to earn their fundraising reward. So on that day, they had the option of, you know, being able to double their impact and have it recognized towards their fundraising reward. So they could have, you know, started at $0 on match day, raised $250 and had it doubled to $500 and get that first level reward. So it's a really great opportunity to drive that. So, I mean, we had a lot of promotion around this. We had a lot of messaging that went out. We used the dynamic banner, that yellow banner that Mark was chatting about earlier, to let our participants know. We, you know, communicated through emails and text messages and that sort of thing, really just to drive this promotion home. And I mean, it was super successful. We, Sick Kids had a corporate donor that, you know, had planned their gift towards children's health research, which is really great. And, you know, they were gracious and, you know, willing to allow us to leverage their donation for this match nationally. And, you know, it was really successful. We had $250,000 and we weren't sure if, you know, we would exceed that match, reach that match. But we actually raised just over $280,000 on that day. So, you know, we may need to look at a bigger match for next year.
Fantastic. Oh, do we have any more?
Did you sell any merchandise? Do you think that it's an opportunity for people to literally wear the brand?
Yeah, so we did, and we did throughout the event. We sold just a one t-shirt. There was one item. And originally we had it right in the registration flow, and we're seeing actually quite good conversions on that. Like, good chunk of the people that were registering were adding on that t-shirt. But that ultimately was one of the things that we cut to streamline the registration and make sure we were getting people in the door first. And after we did that, sales certainly dropped off. Again, it's one of those things you sort of have to be able to sacrifice that. Our merchandise was not a particularly large part of our revenue goal. We wanted to prioritize people getting in the door and raising P2P funds. So that's definitely something for next year that we want to figure out. Where can we promote that where it still makes sense and is still getting in people's hands. I think registration is an effective place, but it's also like you have to pick and choose what you want to prioritize. So
and helps people also focus on the incentive items as well. So during registration, they had those images there. So I think that was one of the benefits of possibly dropping it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, as people have a moment to ask any last questions, any final thoughts from anybody? Marie?
Just thank you. Thank you very much for putting this together. It's been really exciting to work with a Sick Kids team. It was fast paced and I think we had a few late nights together and got to know each other very well. Kind of feels like an affair where we spend all this time together and then it just cuts off. But we're about to start 2022, which is very exciting. Thank you guys for being so amazing. It was exciting to work with you.
Likewise, I think, it was a great experience from start to finish. And I don't know if other platform partners would have been able to pull off what we were asking in the amount of time that we were asking. So I'm glad we were able to find fundraising and get this event off the ground with them, and very excited to start it all up again in 2022.
Yeah, Mark, Angela, definitely thanks for sharing your story, and yeah, congrats on the success. That's pretty impressive numbers in such a crazy time. So yeah, here's to looking forward to 2022, right?
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Well,
guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks everybody for attending. And that's a wrap for this year. So yes, let's look forward to 2022 and see everybody again next year. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.